Hello and welcome back to Tinker Talks Guns. Today we're going to be talking about, among other things, the Colt Walker revolver. The Colt Patterson, of course, was the first commercially successful cap and ball revolvers, starting in the 1830s. And they came in 28 to 36 caliber and went through a few iterations, left a lot to be desired, and frankly, were not a commercial success, and the Colt company folded. But in the 1840s, an Army officer came to Colonel Colt and requested a new revolver that addressed many of the issues of the old one, including its relative lack of power. What they wanted was a cavalry pistol that could reliably drop a horse with a single shot to the body. And the result was the Colt Walker revolver. This was in .44 caliber, which actually used a .452 bullet because reasons, and it fired a 210 picket bullet over a charge of 60 grains of black powder, which made it pretty much the most powerful handgun right up until the advent of .357 Magnum, at least as far as commercial firearms go. And this was a massive thing with a huge barrel, very heavy. They weighed 4.5 pounds. And quite the thing. And then later, after the success of this and the following Colt pocket revolvers, this led to the development of the 1851, the 1860, and the rest is, as they say, history. Now, you can buy a cursed cartridge conversion for a Walker revolver, but it seemed awfully big to me for a .45 Colt. So I thought, maybe there's room for a larger cartridge, and proceeded to develop one. Now, I found out others had been there before me and frankly done it better. But this is what I came up with. The 4455 Walker. We'll talk more about that later. And the gun I got to shoot it in came from a concept I had for what if a wealthy American in the 1870s wanted a howdah pistol of distinctly American style. Now, a howdah pistol were large bore pistols, usually double-barreled, that were carried while hunting in India in the howdah, or the riding basket on an elephant, because tigers are notional, and sometimes they would decide to join the hunters in the howdah, and you wanted a big-bore, hard-hitting pistol that you could fire pretty rapidly to stop them. And I thought about this, and of course, most wealthy Americans at the time would buy a British howdah pistol. But I thought, what about a Colt Walker? Okay, it's a bit unwieldy, but the barrel can be shortened. And that is how I came up with the concept for Thumper, a Colt Walker with a 3.5-inch barrel. So this was my idea of an American howdah pistol, and when coupled with this cartridge, would have actually served pretty well in that role. Anyway, let's go to the tabletop and have a look at this beast. So, the Colt Walker was an enormous pistol, and even in truncated form, it's still very big, being 10 inches long and over 6 inches high. And of course, in operation, it is just like any other Colt-style single action. You bring it half-cock and, check, empty, or load the cylinders as needed. And, of course, there's a half-cock notch that allows you to do that. Come to full cock when you're going to fire. Disassembly is like a Colt. Unsurprisingly, is like a Colt cap and ball revolver, except on the Walker, the wedge comes in from the right rather than the left. There is normally a screw here that will retain the wedge when you drive it out, but it seems to be missing. So, Once you're here, you can pull the barrel off. This one is extremely tight. So you have to move it between cylinders and then use this. This is a tool I made out of the loading lever. I just opened up the hole on top so that this can be inserted in the gun and hook over the screw that used to retain it and be used to pry the barrel off. It's also handy because it can be used, this side is long enough and thin enough to easily be used to punch cartridges out of the cylinder. And of course the cylinder just pulls straight off at that point. And the breech plate is screwed to the breech face. One of the screws is missing. And has a rebounding firing pin. Not a floating firing pin. You really only want to load 5 chambers at a time so you can have the hammer down on an empty cylinder. And the cylinder is the original cap and ball cylinder that I turned down the back on my lathe, bored through, and then reamed with a 452-inch reamer. So it's all pretty basic from there. You do have to make sure you're in half cock or the cylinder lock will catch on the edge and keep you from putting it together. And slide this on. Insert the wedge. Give it a good tap with a soft hammer, or 2 or 3, and you are once again ready to go. Now, the timing on this has gotten a little dodgy, which I mentioned in the shooting portion. Sometimes, if you cock it enthusiastically, it goes past where it should have engaged. And this is, the main upshot of this is that the cartridge isn't going to fire because you've moved the firing pin off the primer. But if it moved it just a little bit too much and you could still hit the primer, that would be an unsafe condition. So this really needs to be reworked. And I need to find the screw that goes in here so I can get everything properly tightened down again. And the cartridges are based on 303 British brass, where I annealed the cartridges, cut the neck off, and then used some special custom die inserts that I made to expand the cartridge out. This one has not been fired yet, so you can see a little bit of a ridge here, because the brass can only be expanded so far down with that die. And these will fire form to the chamber and then be properly cylindrical. But this doesn't seem to have any effect on firing or safety or anything else. Fire forming cases is not a new thing or rocket science. So 200 grain bullet, 55 grains of, in this case, 777 black powder substitute, gives about 1,200 feet per second out of this gun, which is exciting, as you could see in the shooting. And recoil is not insignificant. As you see in the shooting video, my hand is kicked up at a pretty good angle from the recoil. But the 3.5 pound weight of the gun really, it just takes all the sting out of it. So, neat gun, great conversation piece. Absolutely not practical. But just a lot of fun, both in the doing and in the firing, because it's quite a conversation piece when you touch around off on the range. Now, I have actually seen photos of what purports to be an original Walker with this length of barrel, because it's just cut off right at the end of the lug for the loading lever underneath, which is a fairly logical place to cut it if you want the gun to be handier. I do not know if that is actually authentic, and it was not a cartridge conversion. It was just straight cap and ball. I don't know, of my personal knowledge, of any cartridge conversions of the Colt Walker. They may exist. I don't know. Now, there are other people doing high-powered conversions of reproduction Walker revolvers. And I don't remember what the cartridge is called, but it's a 45 caliber cartridge using a 250 grain bullet and 60 grains of black powder, and is rather more powerful than my cartridge. And that's fine. They're welcome to it. I'm not sure this one could handle significantly more power, frankly. And as I said, it's getting a little long in the tooth and needs some proper maintenance and maybe a little bit of a rebuild. But it's been great fun, both to shoot and just to show off. And it's really the Mac Daddy of my homespun cartridge conversions, because it's just ludicrous. Anyway, if you like the video, please hit like and subscribe. Liking the video and commenting on it are the only ways that YouTube knows that I exist and sees these cartridges get out to a larger audience. Also, if you wish to help me in a more material fashion, that would be greatly appreciated. You'll find a link to my Patreon in the description below. Kicking $1 or $2 a month my way each month just really helps more than you know. So, I hope this finds you well. Stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you again real soon.